In the 16th century, Japan met a weapon that changed the way war could be fought. But the most important point is not simply that guns arrived. The important point is that guns arrived in a country already prepared to use them. The traditional date is 1543. Portuguese traders reached the island of Tanegashima, south of Kyushu. Among the goods they carried were matchlock firearms. To Japanese observers, these weapons were strange, powerful, and immediately interesting. But firearms were not magic. A gun could frighten people, but by itself it could not transform a battlefield. It needed powder. It needed shot. It needed repair. It needed men who could load, aim, and fire under pressure. Most of all, it needed a ruler who could build the system around it. This is why Sengoku Japan adopted firearms so quickly. Daimyo were already competing fiercely. They were looking for anything that could give them an advantage. A useful weapon did not remain a curiosity for long. Japanese craftsmen learned to copy and improve matchlocks, and production spread. The firearm also fit the age. Sengoku armies were becoming larger and more organized. Foot soldiers, known as ashigaru, were increasingly important. A matchlock in the hands of one man was useful. Hundreds or thousands of matchlocks, arranged and supplied properly, could change the rhythm of battle. Firearms rewarded discipline. The soldier had to load carefully. He had to keep powder dry. He had to wait for orders. Commanders had to think about timing, terrain, weather, and formation. The technology was powerful, but the organization behind it mattered even more. Foreign contact also meant more than weapons. Trade brought silver, silk, ships, medicines, ideas, and new religious activity. Ports in western Japan became especially important. Daimyo who controlled access to trade could gain wealth, supplies, and political influence. Christian missionaries also arrived in this world of competition. Some daimyo tolerated or supported them, not always for religious reasons alone, but because foreign trade and foreign relationships could be useful. In the Sengoku period, politics, commerce, and religion often overlapped. This does not mean Japan simply became Europeanized. The opposite is closer to the truth. New tools entered Japan, and Japanese rulers adapted them to local needs. The matchlock became part of Japanese warfare because it was absorbed into Japanese systems of production, command, and supply. The deeper lesson is that technology changes history most when it meets the right conditions. Firearms mattered because Japan was fragmented, competitive, and militarized. Daimyo needed advantages. Craftsmen could copy useful objects. Armies were growing. Castles, roads, markets, and ports were already becoming part of regional power. So when we say that guns changed Japan, we should be precise. Guns did not change Japan alone. Organized warlords changed Japan by turning guns into power. This is the world in which the great unifiers would rise. The leaders who succeeded were not only brave fighters. They were the ones who understood how to combine weapons, money, discipline, and strategy into something larger than any single battle. It is also important to avoid a common misunderstanding. The arrival of firearms did not make older weapons disappear. Swords, spears, bows, and cavalry still mattered. Armies did not suddenly become modern armies. Instead, matchlocks were added to a changing military world. The spear remained especially important. Large groups of foot soldiers with long spears could defend positions, push forward, and hold ground. Firearms added a new layer of power, but they worked best when protected by other troops and supported by planning. Weather could also shape their use. Matchlocks depended on powder, and powder hated rain. A commander had to think about timing, storage, and battlefield conditions. This made logistics more important, not less. The spread of firearms also changed castles. Defenders had to think about gunfire. Attackers had to think about distance, approach, and cover. Fortifications, walls, gates, and firing positions all became part of a wider arms race. Foreign trade created its own political geography. Western Japan, especially Kyushu, became a crucial gateway. Daimyo there could gain access to ships, merchants, missionaries, and imported goods earlier than many rivals. This did not automatically make them dominant, but it gave them options. Silver was part of this story too. Japan became an important supplier of silver in East Asian trade. Silver connected Japanese politics to Chinese demand, Portuguese merchants, and regional exchange networks. The Sengoku age was not isolated. It was connected to a wider world. Christianity added another layer. Some people converted from sincere belief. Some rulers saw political and commercial advantages. Some opponents saw foreign religion as a threat. The result was not one simple story, but a complicated mix of faith, diplomacy, trade, and power. This is why the 16th century feels so different from the world before it. Japan was still Japanese in its institutions, language, and local struggles, but the scale of contact had widened. Weapons, money, religion, and maritime trade now connected local warlords to forces beyond the islands. Firearms are the easiest symbol of that change. But behind the gun was a much larger transformation. Japan's civil wars were becoming part of an international age.